The reason I'm running for office of principal chief, there's just one main objective, and that is to build a better nation that's progressive and dynamic for the Osage people, to help lay a foundation for our future leaders to come and for our future generations. Leadership starts at the top. The chief is the #1 top executive at this nation, and the tone that they set for their leadership, it trickles down all through the executive branch, between the branches, to the Minerals Council, and also to the boards, commissions, and everybody that's involved in our nation. And I'm seeking the office of principal chief because I believe I have the leadership skills to pull the nation together, to unite us, to move forward so we can be a more progressive and dynamic nation. I've been thinking about this position for a long time, being an elected official for the past 6 years. And I see components missing in the administration of our government. The Supreme Court has given us some really good guidance in one of their opinions, and if you'll bear with me, I'd like to read it right quick to you. It says, "The Constitution also places responsibilities on the executive branch, the most important of which is to dutifully support the Constitution and the laws of the Osage Nation, and see that the laws are faithfully executed, administered, and enforced. The principal chief is our political leader who maintains organizational cohesiveness, develops strategic and policy direction, and represents the nation. These responsibilities are similarly bound by the Constitution, particularly when Congress enacts laws to carry out the Constitution's provisions." I believe that the policy of the nation starts with the chief, just as the Supreme Court says. What I would like to bring to bear for the Osage Nation, especially as the chief, is excellent communication and cooperation and planning between all branches, with the people of the Osage Nation, with the Minerals Council. Communication has been sketchy since I've been here. We need to know from the executive branch what his policies are, or her policies are. As leader of the nation, I will communicate my policies. I will communicate my plans. I'd like to talk about planning for a little bit. Lately, we've seen a couple of strategic plan reviews come out. In November, there was one released by the executive office, and then the 26th of April, another one was released. And they were, the 25-year strategic plan has been dusted off and given a new shot of life into it. My view on that is planning starts at the first of your administration. It's not something that you wrap your administration up with. Well, I was raised in Hominy. My family was all raised in Hominy. We've been there, and I went to Hominy High School. After graduating high school, I went to the University of Oklahoma for about a year, and then I went to work with my husband in the oil field. That was a great experience. I got to learn about drilling. He was an independent petroleum consultant in the drilling industry. And so I learned a lot about the oil field and have a love for it. I understand it. We're an oil-rich nation, and I understand the operations of oil field. After that, I got into middle management in the food and beverage industry, and also with an oil company. I loved middle management. I was responsible for employees. Training was my thing. I love to train people, but my management, the way I like to manage my employees is I like to train them how I do things, but then I would always end up with, if you can think of a better way to get to the end product we need, by all means do that. And if you can think of a way to improve this, please let me know. that's my management skill. That's what I want to bring to the nation. I believe that we have a lot of excellent directors and employees and a workforce here that works for the nation, and I want them to be able to use their head, bring their ideas and their plans to the table. I think that way we're more dynamic, we're serving the people better. After a stint in middle management, I went back to school at Southwest Texas State University. I found a great geography program that focused in water resources. That was my passion from then on. I learned so much living down in Texas over the Edwards Underground Aquifer. They are so conscious of their water resources and the pollution that comes along with living over the type of aquifer that they live in. Water conservation was big. I was able to map and look at drainage basins. It was a very exciting time, and that's where I got my passion for water and water rights. Under the Red Eagle administration, when I was first a new Congress member, I went to Chief Red Eagle and had a conversation with him one day about our water resources here in the Osage Nation. And I am a firm believer that if we don't assert our water rights as a nation, that somebody else is. And so after our conversation, Chief Red Eagle had the vision to put together the Water Rights Task Force, which was 3 members of Congress, 2 members of the Minerals Council, the Attorney General's office. And I feel real proud to have worked on the Water Rights Task Force. It was a task force that probably, I guess we worked maybe 3 years, and this current administration dissolved the Water Rights Task Force and decided to move on in that area as the chief and make those decisions for us. I thought the task force was a real dynamic way to lay a foundation of the direction we needed to move to assert our water rights. There are books and books of planning that we've done, and it's incomplete. So when I get to be chief, I would like to step into completing a comprehensive water plan for the Osage Nation and protecting our water rights and having the discussions about water right claims. I also have my siblings and I, we are in a small ranching business, Whitehorn Cattle LLC. It's a herd that my grandfather and my father have had for years and years, and now it's in our hands to work, and we ranch on a restricted land. It's a small cow-calf operation, but I love it. I love being here in the Osage. It's a wonderful place to work. Yes, I'd like to talk about culture right now. Our Osage culture is dynamic. It's a part of who we are. I wake up every morning, I'm Osage. I go to bed every night, I'm Osage. When I was a little girl, I always knew I was Osage. Before this government, I was Osage. I'm Osage now that we have a nation, and if this nation ever ceases to be, I will still be Osage. All families have different circumstances that they have lived through and experienced. My circumstances have been a very strong family with Osage culture in it. My great-grandfather, Kahikanashi, he was a road man, but he was here in the Osage when the people walked in because he was a traveler. Our family homestead out on Sycamore Creek, he was there, and it got to be part of our allotted lands. We still run our cattle out there. We still bale our hay out there. So culture is very important to me. My Kahikanashi, he carried the old ways. he went down and he adopted the Native American church and was instrumental in bringing it back up. We have our own family church house. My great aunt, Maria Whitehorn Green, she kept that church going out there. But late in her years, she adopted Christianity. And actually in her will, she asked for that church house to be closed. And it's closed today. My Aunt Frances, she owns the property out there, but she takes special care to restore and keep that church house in the way that it was. Aunt Penny adopted the way of Christianity. My grandfather Sam Whitehorn was a very godly man. And that's my circumstances, that's my family. I'm a Christ follower, and that's who I am. But also my family my little brother was a drum keeper back in the 80s. I know my culture. I was a cook for 4 years when he had the drum. It was a pleasure to keep the drum and to serve the people of the Zonzoli district and to have Pahuska and Gray Horse come over when we all got together. We've had a cultural resurgence around our Inlonshka ever since probably the early 80s, and it just keeps growing. People want to have that. As the chief, I want to keep that. I'm not the cultural expert, but we have people who are, and I honor them and I respect them. I'd like to go on and talk about the Osage culture of leadership. That's what I want to bring to the chief's office. Your chief should be dedicated to all people of the Osage Nation. Just as I said, we all have different circumstances surrounding our culture. We should be respectful to all Osage people inside and all non-Osage people. We should lead with truth and integrity. We should be dedicated to progressing our Osage Nation forward. And first and foremost, we should be responsible and accountable for our actions and ready to speak to the people about what we're doing and how we're moving forward. As chief, I will bring this culture of leadership to the nation. My heart is for the Osage people. I'm not seeking this office for any other reason than to build a better, more sustainable nation, and I believe that I have the skills to do this. So thank you, Osage News, for letting us share our heart with the people. I appreciate it.